So if you look at any table, if you have the first one is your x, usually this is your x when you are graphing, and this is your y, right? So instead of saying x and y, because not always we use the x or not always we use the y, we use year and time. So we have new vocabulary, and we call the first set or the first one as domain and the second as range. And on the test, if you like, sometimes we forget, right, domain and range, like which one is domain, which one is range. So go with the logic that the D comes first, right? Look at alphabetical order. D comes first in the alphabetical order, so domain. R comes later in the alphabetical order, right? Range. So D for first set and R for second set. So use that logic. Math is organized actually. It's not that haphazardly they have given any name. So D for domain, that's what for the first set. R comes later, so it would be for the second set. And when we are working with graph, of course, domain means what? X, and range means what? Y. Is everybody okay till here? Okay. So here they are asking us, they have given you a graph, and they are asking us to find the domain and the range. So again, let's talk about when it comes to graph, domain is the first, so this would be what? X, and range is what? Your y. So what they are indirectly saying when they are saying find domain, so I'm writing my notes over here, find domain means they are asking find or list all the x coordinate. So you have to make a list of all the x coordinates. Now if I start listing the x coordinates, so what is the x coordinate for this one? The first one is 0, right? Then it is what? 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, right? All these x, if I start writing, this is 1, this is again 1.1, 1.2, 1.5, it will take me ages, right? So is there an easier way? And that's why, because there are tons of points, right? Each are basically points, right? If I start listing, I will be using what? Interval notation. So when I graph, I use interval notation for these. I will be using interval notation because that's the easy one. I cannot list all of it. What is interval notation? You have to list the minimum to the maximum. So interval notation would be minimum to the maximum. Okay. So now how to scan your graph, because when they say find domain, or you have to list all the x coordinates. How do we do it? In order to, we will be using interval notation, so minimum to maximum. So x is your horizontal axis, correct? So I will scan the graph left to right in order to find the leftmost number and rightmost, because left will give me the minimum and right will give me the maximum. Is this making sense to you? So what I'm doing is, so I'm looking, so this is my leftmost, I'm looking what is my x coordinate and scanning the graph to the right and looking what's my rightmost. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to smither it, right? This all graph I'm to like to smooth into this one. So it's basically each of the x values. So here if you see the x values, are you able to see? I'm trying to highlight it. The x values is between what number? 0 all the way to 3. Is everybody good? So I'm trying to figure out all the x values. So imagine I'm like trying to mush it up on the x axis. Okay, so that's what I'm looking. I'm just looking. So again, that's what I said, that we have now two-dimensional figure, but we have to, when I give x coordinate, we have to mush it on the C as a one dimension. Okay, so my minimum for this one, so for the first case, my domain would be what? So for this one, what would be my domain? So my domain is starts at 0, ends at 3, right, the x coordinate. And if you look at 0, what it is associated with. Solid. So I will be putting solid. And 3, what it is associated with? A hole, right, or a open circle. So this should be parentheses. So it's your association actually, okay? So try to write notes, and I'll try to write, so solid, that's why, and I'll try, so open, and this is solid. So when you have endpoints, it's much easier. You look at the endpoint, you're scanning your graph left to right. So is everybody okay till here? So please do write notes. Again, when it's graph, actually not much, right? I can show you by arrows, but use your words so that you know when you go home and read your notes, it makes sense. Okay. Next we move on, how do we find the range? So in order to find range, so what I'm asking you find range means find all the x coordinate or all the, sorry, yeah, I'm writing y and I'm saying x. Find all the y coordinates, right? And then, so y coordinates, when you say y coordinate, which axis we are talking about? The vertical axis, correct? And again, when you have to list it up, you start from what? Minimum to maximum. So when you are looking at vertical, where will you find the minimum value? The bottom or the top? Bottom, right? So here you will be scanning your graph from bottom to top or down to up, whichever vocabulary makes sense to you. Because I am looking for y coordinates and y is the vertical axis. Does that logic make sense? So again, what now I'm doing is, so again that's what a two-dimensional. So now what I'm trying to do, my graph, I'm trying to, if I had like a thread or something, like, okay. So I'm trying to represent it. So this is a straight line, right? I'm trying to mush it up on the y-axis. Does that make the imagination going on? So if you can see, I'm using that staples actually, but are you getting the point? This is my line, and what I'm trying to find the y value, so I'm trying to mush it up on the y, so I have to do only one dimension, okay? So now what is happening is I'm trying to mush all my y values, trying to find all the y values. So what is the minimum value up over here? And going up, it's 3, right? So my range would be 3 to negative 3 to 3. If you look at 3, look at the association. Negative 3 is associated with what? Open, so it should be parentheses. And look at the 3, it is associated with a solid, and that's why the solid. So if anybody has any question. So class, give it a try. Those who are done with this one, give it a try on the next graph. Okay, so let's move on to the next graph again. So I wrote over the notes. Hopefully that helps you up, and if you can write it out. So whenever I say find domain, what I have to find, I have to find all the x coordinates. And if you look at, it's a continuous graph, right? So there are hundreds, not hundreds, unlimited, infinite number of points, right? So what's the easy way? I scan the graph from the left to the right. So are you getting the point? Left to right. But what I see on the left and the right, I don't see solid endpoints. What I see? Arrows, correct? And arrows means what? It is going on, it's never ending, right? It's going on and on. So when I'm scanning it out and I'm like finding out all the y, but this is what infinity. Are you getting the point? If I smoothen in, if I'm putting it up, and if I'm pushing it up on the, so I'm getting arrows and it's going from here. Are you able to see? I've made it as a one dimension on the x-axis, correct? So this is going what? Infinity to infinity. Okay, so there is no restriction here. On the first one, our domain was restricted. It was only between what? 0 to 3. But here the domain is what? Is going on and on and on. So your domain is infinity to infinity, negative infinity to infinity. Or in other words, basically all real numbers. What is real number? Any numbers. Like square root of 2, square root of 3, 1, 1.2, any fraction, all those numbers, right? Because it's going on, so you can also write all real numbers. There is no restriction. Domain, in your input, domain is your input. So there is no restriction. So I'm giving you an idea, and mostly maybe it should connect with you. Like, any of you is allergic to any food? Can you raise your hand? How many of you? None of you have any allergies, right? So nobody raised hands in our class, right? So it shows that what if I bring any food which is edible? Of course, I'm not bringing frogs. And are you getting the point? So any edible, yes, frog is again, yeah, some people. Let's not. So any edible food if I bring, everybody can eat, right? Because you don't have like gluten allergy or like this allergy or nut allergy or anything, right? So that's what I'm saying, that what is the input, what you can take. Like for me also, I don't have any food allergy. So yes, I can take in any food, right? And my body will not do any reaction. Does that make sense? Any edible food. Got the idea? So I have no restriction. That means what? All real numbers. Anything which is edible, I can eat it up. So it's all real numbers. So that's what the domain is. You can do anything. When I gave you the example of washer, in washing machines or washer, you can only wash what? Clothes, right? You cannot wash your utensils in your washer. Are you getting the point? So when we are working with a machine or something, you have restrictions. Like if you have a hybrid car or if you have an electric car, it runs on electric, so you have to plug in. So again, the domain is what? The input is what? It needs electricity, correct? If you are working or if you are running on gasoline, you need to fill it with gasoline. So that's what your domain, that it can work only on gasoline. Make sense to you? So sometimes we have some restrictions. Here we don't have any restrictions on the input. So coming back to range. So when we are talking about range is all your y's. So you will be scanning your graph from what? Bottom to top. So I'm using different color pens. So now each of your y values you are trying to. So now what you are trying to, if you can imagine, if I had animation, it would have been great, that I'm trying to pull it up on this one, on the vertical axis. So tell me, what is the minimum value on this one? -4, and remember it's a solid line, there is no gap or anything. So -4, I'll put a solid, and up to what? Again there is an arrow, so it is going to what? Infinity, and going to the y is going to positive infinity, right? So how are we doing till now? Okay. So let's do some more. I don't want to stop right up over here. So let's do another function. Let's do, so I'm taking from your 11.2, this is section 11.2, and if you see, it's talking about domain and range. So domain is your x, range is your y, okay? So don't get confused. So I have the printed book. Maybe many of you don't have the printed book. If you have the printed book, I'm at page 93. If you have the print. If you don't have, we'll just use the figure. Actually, I just need a graph. Yeah, we are working on 11.2. So class, even if you don't have a book, you can see the graph. I want you to find the domain and the range. And class, I always, even on the first day, I put an idea that use post-its actually. Whenever some formula you have to remember, put post-it with the formula everywhere actually. When you wash yourself in the mirror, there should be a post-it with the formula. So this is how we try to memorize it or something. So use post-its. They are really helpful tools actually. Okay, so I want you to find the domain and the range. So the concept is same, but what would happen is the shapes of the graphs will be of course different. Okay, so give it a try on domain and range, and I think it's big enough, right? Should I zoom in more? Is this good enough? Everybody is visible? You can see on your screen, right? Computer screen also you can see. So domain and range. So domain, how you are seeing, so I cannot scribble on the this one, but are you able to see the leftmost to the, because you are scanning, right? You are scanning the whole graph from left to right for domain, because you have to find the x coordinate. So are you able to get the x coordinate? And this one is much easier, right? You don't have to drop it on the x-axis. So it is on the x-axis. So what is your starting point? Yeah, so -1, and why I am using a square with -1? Because it's a solid. Is everybody okay? And let's move on to the next number. It ends at what number? 3. And 3, if you see, it's an open circle, so I'll put a parenthesis. Is everybody good on this one? And talking about range, range is what? You will be scanning your graph from the bottom to the top. So bottom, what's the value of the bottom? -5 to +5, and there is no gap or anything. So it's -5 to +5, both would be solid. Is it clear? Okay. Now here is another interesting one, and I cannot, like, I wanted to go, but it is so interesting that I have to give it a try on number 10 now. Give it a try on number 10. Do we have how many points is, visibly how many points are you able to see? Just 3. Are you getting the point? There is a difference between this graph and this graph. How many points are there on this graph? Just 3, which you can list it on your fingers. And how many points are there on this graph? Unlimited. Got the idea? So when I have to find the domain and range for this one, I have to use interval notation. But when I do something like this, I don't use interval notation. What I will be using is, for domain, I will be listing it out. Range, I'll list it out. So that's the difference where you can. So interval notation is only when you have hundreds of points, but here you can see visibly. So how to list it out? You list out your x coordinates and they are visible. Again, start from minimum to in increasing order and list your y coordinates. So these are all your x's, these are all your y's. So y coordinate, again when you list, coordinate is 1 and 4, 4. So don't repeat. In a set we don't repeat. So though 4 is coming twice, I'll just write once. But remember, listing whenever you do in your number wise, it has a pattern. So minimum to maximum. So did you get the idea where to use set and where to use the? So anytime you have this, I'll again say this is set builder notation or symbol. Notation means symbol. So set builder notation. Are we good? Are we okay on this one? Everybody done? Joel, are you good? Or are you still looking something? Are you okay? So, is this making sense that you have to, domain means what? I'm asking all your x's, correct? And here just there are couple of, so you can just list it on your finger. So you just list it, what is the negative 2, 3 and 5. Coming to the y's, y's are what? 1. And if you see the y value is the same over here, right? So I'm just writing 1. You don't repeat. So if I say to build a word moon, what are the letters in moon? M, O, O, N, right? So if I ask you to build a letter, what you will be asking? I need what? M, O and N. Though there are 2 O's, but you don't, right? You will be asking, oh, I need M, O and N. So you don't repeat. Okay? Good. So we are finished with the graph. The graph gives a hard time. And now we will be moving on to something else actually. So let me switch.